Coach,
Hi, Doug.
you've been around this game for
Long time, I know.
a bit. We're both seasoned
30
veterans.
plus, yeah.
To see the numbers that came out in the 1.34 million that watched game two, the 1.14 game one, you guys are going to have a huge attendance tonight. Minnesota's always had a great crowd, so I'm not saying that you guys don't usually, but just to see all this grow in the last year, is it a proud moment for you? Like, because you've been around and there were times it wasn't what it is now, so to speak.
Yeah, I guess I have two thoughts, and the first one was we had 18,000 when we were playing in the finals before. I thought that, and I've said this often, the LA Sparks and Minnesota Lynx finals rivalry, I thought was a look into the future of our league. And so there's that. I think that's where it started. Clearly, we've had our watershed moment as we were growing. I feel like 2020, after the CBA, et cetera, you could feel women's sports in general growing. And then, we had, the moment that sort of pushed it over the top to get where we are now. So is it exciting? Yeah. I'm glad I'm still coaching during this because it's what we've always believed, and I've always believed, and I've always pushed the people that I've been around, to understand, whether it's our own media market, whether it's our own organization, that, if you treat the sport the right way, I've often said this, and it's true. It's just that, and I think we would have gotten here sooner, had we done this sooner, had we treated the game, women's sports like you treat men's sports, that we will be on that trajectory. And so it took a little bit longer. Am I thrilled that we're here now? Of course I am. Yep.
Coach, all the way to the right in the front row.
Hey, Rich.
So you talked last year about needing a true point guard, and Courtney Williams has filled that tremendously.
No, she's not a true point guard.
She's not a true point
Don't call her that. She's very upset. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry, Rich. Keep going. Yeah.
well, she's made a great impact for you guys, especially in this postseason. What do you see her impact being in games 3 and 4 to help you all to try to win this ring?
Yeah, I told her that this was before, like when the playoffs started, had conversations with her that if this team is going to reach the finals, that Courtney Williams had to be a massive part of it. And then when the finals started, I said to her, Courtney Williams, if we're going to win a championship, you're going to be a huge part of it. And so she understands that. She's excited. She loves big moments, not afraid to take shots. It's point guard, and it's the position. It's pick and roll. It's pick and roll that she's has a master class in. Like, she's just terrific in her reads. And I love scheming, putting her, in those situations. And she has seen every type of coverage. And I think she's grown this year, in her ability to play in that position. And she's grown as a leader at the top of the offense. And so I think she is a point guard. And maybe next year we get to call her that. But for now, she still wants to just be the lead guard.
Coach, staying in the front row to the right.
Hey, Cheryl. Building off of that, actually, I guess this series could be, a moment for combo guards, if you're comfortable calling Courtney that, but also Sabrina Ionescu is a combo guard. I guess, just what do you think has been behind the W getting to a moment where combo guards are shining?
Yeah. I'm not sure, exactly, how we got here. I just know since Lindsay Whalen's retirement, trying to find, sort of that true point guard, we've landed on more combo guards because that's what's available. I don't know the reason for it. I think maybe college coaches might have better ideas. I just know that's what's, being fed to the W. Positionless basketball, maybe, scoring guards. That's sort of the way of the land. And I agree, in your assessment that, probably Courtney Vandersloot's the only true point guard on the floor in these games. And she's, is she north of 35 yet? I don't know. I mean, so they're just, they're becoming like, they're dinosaurs, Not that Courtney's a dinosaur. I didn't say that. I didn't mean to suggest that, but it's a dying breed.
Coach, right in the center.
Hey, Coach.
Hi.
Having been 7 years since Minnesota got to host a finals game, just what does the energy feel like here? What does it bring to you today?
I'm just super happy for our fans. And I think about our organization that went from watching Dynasty basketball, Hall of Fame basketball, to the years subsequent to that, and how our fans have stood by us and have continued to make this a great place for players to be excited to play. Both our players and then players that come here have a healthy respect for our fan base. And so I think for what I feel is like a real excitement for them, they know what to do in finals basketball and they're ready. And as you mentioned, it's been a few years. And so I think it's going to be an unbelievable environment. Barclays was great. This is going to be even better.
Coach, all the way to the left in the back.
Hey, Cheryl.
Lynx.
To piggyback off Doug's question, you said like we're at this watershed moment. What do you imagine for the next like 10 years of this league then? If the Sparks Lynx were a glimpse, like what is the glimpse we're seeing now maybe?
Yeah. Well, I think in terms of like there's probably layers to that. The game itself just going to continue, high quality. We're going to get more teams in the league, more stars in the league, that natural growth. We know TV deal, et cetera. But I think how the organizations treat the WNBA, how they treat their WNBA team, as we know, it happened like that. You don't have a practice facility, you're in trouble like that, right? It's something we've been doing for a long time. And so now it sticks out, it stick out before if you had one, most of them didn't. And so it wasn't a problem. Now it's flipping. And so how you treat your WNBA franchise will be noticed. And you have to, right, keep up with the Joneses, as they say. And so I think we're going to see the investment. We're going to see sort of different mindsets around the business of the WNBA. Probably greater investment on, there's business intelligence, of course, but how we're bringing crowds in and the expectation that the crowds grow, because that's what's going to happen. That's the next step, right? So what happened in the NBA is the same thing that's going to happen in the WNBA, this trajectory. And as we know, the valuations of franchise, we're going to continue to grow, which is what allows owners to invest more without this narrative of don't lose a dollar, which is what it was for a long time. And now you can lose more than a dollar, and it's not the story. We're just like the NBA, who loses millions upon millions each year in their operating costs, yet the valuations are what allows the owners to do that. That's our space now.
Time for a couple more. Staying in the third row to the left.
Hi, Coach. I mean, here in Minnesota, we have so many incredible women's sports teams, the Lynx, the Aurora, Frost, we have Minnesota Vixen. What do you think the impact of women's sports has been on young girls here in the state? Massive.
As you said, you can, be a young person, and, if our media would cover it more, it could even be more impactful for young girls to see the opportunities for them to play in any sport. And then also more than sport, just jobs in sports, that sports can be a career for them. And so I love being a part of the Minnesota community and the way that we treat women's sports. And like I said, for media to step up even more, then the impact continues to grow.
Back row center.
Yeah, Coach, if you include the major men's professional sports, I think there's only 4 coaches who've been with their teams longer than you have. And other than Popovich, who's an extreme outlier, it's very close to you.
Like a real dinosaur.
Being a dinosaur myself, I appreciate that. But I'm just wondering, other than you've had great success, but what is the reason you've stayed as committed to this franchise and vice versa? And then when you talk to younger coaches, what do you tell them about what it's like to try to build that longevity with? Yeah,
I feel, really fortunate, obviously, and blessed to have landed here in Minnesota at the time that I did, to have a chance to coach, the players that I did. And, it sort of laid a foundation for my time here in Minnesota. The reason why I'm still in Minnesota is because it's been home to me and my family. So obviously I got to love what I do in my job, but I also have to love where I am and the people around me. And so it's been a perfect marriage in that way. Glenn and Becky's ownership has been a big part of that. And, when Roger Griffith was here, just the way that we fostered this franchise, something that you want to be a part of for a long time. I feel fortunate, you probably just jinxed me, I'll probably be on the hot seat here soon, and, we'll be like Michael Vopel started this shit, but what was the other one? It was, oh, young coaches, yeah, that's a good one. And man, I've been through, I was 28 years old, head coach, making, decisions that I wish I had a mentor around to tell me. You get so caught up in a game. What I would tell them, when you go through difficult times, it's moments. It seems so large at the time. I can tell you how it was. It was for me. Going a 3-game losing streak, and you thought you were the worst coach in the world, and you're never going to get through it. And so just that, perspective, and it's hard. You don't get perspective till you get older. And that there's more than one way to be successful, and being yourself is the most important thing you can do. And something Bill Lambier taught me, and I told him it was easy for him, given his sort of, position as a former NBA player, was you can never coach afraid to lose your job. You can never fear that. You can never, ever, and that's sometimes, and I told him, I said, for women, we don't necessarily have that luxury. At the time, especially when I was with Bill in 2006, 2007, 2008, so it wasn't apples to apples. That might have been the case for him. He might have had millions put away. We didn't necessarily have that luxury. But there was the message in there that I took, that it's true. Like for young coaches, that be confident in what you do and who you are, and be yourself. And when it doesn't work out, especially in professional sports, sometimes it's short-lived. It's not a job full of stability. Doesn't mean you're a bad coach. It just means that it didn't work, where you were. Look at the NBA, and I think we'll become, very, very similar. There's a lot of good coaches that don't have jobs right now, that will be on short lists, I hope, for the jobs that are ahead of us in expansion.
We have time for just one more, second row center.
Hey, Cheryl, you talked about the fact that, and this has been the case, there have been big crowds here, during the 2010s, that, the co-branding signs
Yeah.
that are now everywhere where there are co-branded, co-owned teams, they were here first. And I wonder, as you come back and you see this moment in the finals, it does seem like signs are everywhere around the city. It seems like there's sort of a level up. I'm wondering what you see that's different about this time.
Yeah, and I appreciate you noticing that, and I have Brunson on the staff, and I said, like, people loved those teams, but we didn't necessarily have the full-on commitment around us, whether it was a city taking notice, but I do think it goes back to where the women's game has come and the excitement, be it because of this class, this Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, et cetera, class, or whether it was just the momentum of women's basketball in general. But having this moment where there's been greater investment, people are talking about it more, right? And so, seeing the city step up, and I think people are noticing what's done for the Wolves. When it's done for the Wolves, they expect it to be done for the Lynx too. And that's a little bit of a different time. So we've enjoyed that and appreciate the support, whether it's First Ave, having signs, or whether it's the painting in front of the Target Center on the streets, and, the street signs, and all those things. I'm thrilled that our players get a chance to be supported in that way. You're welcome.
Coach, thank you.
Thanks.